Well, first of all, I want to say hello to all of you. And obviously, it is our special honor that we are joined today by Dr. Naledi Pandor, who is very clearly one of the eminent leaders of the Global South, which is the global majority, whose voice has to become much, much stronger if the world is supposed to get ever to a peaceful order. So I want to very especially greet you, but also naturally all the other distinct speakers. Well, I think we are in the most dramatic change of an epoch, which is on the one side fraught with incredible dangers, and the danger of a global nuclear war is still not completely off the table. But on the other side, I think that there is absolutely hope that, if we join our efforts, that we can move humanity into a better era of a new paradigm. Now, the whole world is right now obviously reacting to the shakeup caused by the election of President Trump. And he, by making a phone call together with President Putin, has caused, at least in the transatlantic world, a complete earthquake and freakouts and nervousness of unprecedented dimensions. But I think it's that part of what he's doing is extremely promising, and it represents a true breakthrough. According to the Russian spokesman Peskov, a meeting is set and being prepared between Trump and Putin in the short term. Location is not yet settled, but he said there is a lot to talk about. And Trump already said that he wants to restart nuclear arms control negotiations with Russia and China. This was widely reported by the Chinese media, but a Chinese spokesman said that the United States should go ahead by being an example of nuclear disarmament, given the fact that the United States and Russia have the largest nuclear arsenals, and that way other countries could then follow. He also said that he has a plan to settle the Ukraine crisis by giving assurances to Russia that Ukraine cannot join NATO, and that way addressing one of the major root causes for the war. And he also said that Ukraine cannot expect to have the same territory like in the borders before 2014. And he basically said that the Biden administration provoked the conflict. He also said that he trusts Putin, that Putin, he believes, wants peace, and he wants Russia to be back in the G8. So for starters, this is a very welcome break to the previous policy. And naturally, if you look at the British media, it's a complete freak out and hysteria, saying, from Trump sold Ukraine down the river to this is appeasement. So they cannot reconcile themselves with it. And, obviously, this is hitting the Munich Security Conference, which is taking place starting today, like a lightning. Now, the other major crisis which we are extremely concerned with is naturally what happens in the Middle East. There, the initial remarks by President Trump were rather horrible when he proposed to turn Gaza into a new beautiful Riviera. However, all the Palestinians should be relocated to Jordan, to Egypt, and to other places, other countries, which naturally is completely unacceptable for the Palestinians and for most of the world with it. So, we immediately went into a mobilization and said we have to activate now the Oasis plan, because you need a two-state solution. But given the devastation of Gaza and also the West Bank, you absolutely have to combine it with an economic development plan immediately. So when Trump was visited by King Abdullah of Jordan, Trump reiterated his proposal to dislocate all the Palestinians, to which King Abdullah was not immediately countering this, but sitting there more or less quietly. But after the meeting, he put out a statement that if the United States would attempt to do that, Jordan would declare war on Israel. And, that is very obviously because already now 60% of the Jordanian population are Palestinians, and it would, threaten the destabilization of not only the Kingdom of Jordan, but, if such such policies would be accepted, it would be a threat to the stability of every single country in the region. Now, obviously, the other affected countries, especially Egypt, also do absolutely not agree with it. They rejected it like all other Arab neighbors. And Egypt is now conducting on the 17th, that is in 4 days from now, in 3 days from now, a Cairo conference on an alternative plan. This plan is very good. It basically proposes the reconstruction of Gaza, but with the Palestinians remaining in their homeland. But obviously, we think that it is a step in the right direction, but I come to what I think is needed in a second. Now, the NATO allied security people in the world, or in much of the world, are right now meeting in Munich for a 3-day conference. And I want to say this, the so-called Wehrkunde-Tagung, which is the name the Munich Security Conference used to have when still Ewald von Kleist and Horst Telschik were the leaders. And, at that time, it was a forum for a real dialogue among nations on security concerns of their country and related issues. But unfortunately, the Munich Security Conference, after the successors of Horst Telschik took over, has turned into a propaganda, into a public relation event of NATO and the military-industrial complex. So right now, basically, these people, Europeans of various kinds, they have invited for the first time major speakers from the global south, not the first time, but more emphasis this time. And they are in a complete disarray because they realize that the old liberal order is disintegrating, that with the arrival of Trump in the White House, their so-called rules-based order is out of order, is basically finished. And naturally, a big freak out is on the fact that President Trump closed down the USAID, which had a budget of anywhere between 40 and 60 billion per year. And apart from so-called humanitarian aid, it was the key vehicle for so-called soft power of the United States, which in not so nice words meant political destabilizations, manipulations, color revolution, and the like. And naturally, the people who use these tools to maintain their rules-based order are now in a disarray about the fact that that is cut off. So, but that is very good. C.D. Vance, the vice president, just addressed the Munich conference half an hour ago or an hour ago, and he gave the Europeans a lecture in democracy by basically saying the problem with the Europeans is that they're afraid of the voters. And he called upon them that they should no longer ostracize elected oppositions, which is rampant in all of Europe right now. So looking at this picture, which is clearly evolving, and given the fact that the old order is breaking apart, however, the new order has not yet taken shape. I think it is extremely urgent that we move with the International Peace Coalition and all related forces with it to try to put a new paradigm on the table. And as we discussed, or as I said many times before, I think that all the problems of the world can only be addressed efficiently if one agrees on a new global security and development architecture, which takes into account the interest of every single country on the planet in the tradition of the Peace of Westphalia. Because the conclusion of that peace was that unless you take into account the interest of all others, peace is impossible. So that means for the Middle East, which is right now the most urgent question, we should try to get the combination of an Arab peace plan as it is promoted by Egypt and other Arab countries, but with the addition that the two-state solution must include an oasis plan, because I think that only if one has a wide development perspective for the entire Middle East, not just Israel and Palestine, but for all the countries which have been destroyed by previous interventionist wars, Syria, Iraq, Afghanistan, Yemen, and many other countries in the region, they need urgent development. And the Oasis Plan, which proposes to create new large amounts of fresh water through canals, through an irrigation system, through large amounts of ocean water to be desalinated with the help of nuclear energy as the basis for infrastructure and industrial development of this entire region, which right now is predominantly a desert. Obviously, the immediate question is that the humanitarian aid must get into Palestine because people are dying as we speak here. And, but this whole package has to be put on the agenda as one for it to succeed. So these were my initial remarks, and I give the word back to you, Anastasia.